Hello. Uh, this is Excursion Reflection 2, going over what is death and the end. And I don't agree with any of these texts. Like, I understand where they're coming from, and I understand their point in writing them, and I understand, like, it's everybody's own individual interpretation of what death is, because we have no good definition of death. Like, we don't know what death is. People stop, their bodies stop, and then there's just, like, nothing. Like, we don't have anybody that's, like, able to, I mean, like, yeah, they're the people that, like, come back from the dead, but, like, there's never going to be anybody that can tell you what's on the other side. So all these different interpretations of what is death, I enjoy reading them because it allows you to open your mind to other things. And I feel like, as Descartes did, you have to open your mind to everything if you want to find the one true path. In this case, what is death? The true answer for that. And I don't believe what I think death is anywhere near an apt description at all. But I agree closely-ish with Mother and Poet more than anything. If we have to tier list them, Mother and Poet, and then Lady Lazarus. No. Mother and Poet, Endgame, then Lady Lazarus. Cycles of Death and Rebirth. No. I can't agree with that. There's no, I mean, like, religion. Everything about death comes from a religion, whether people want to believe it or not. You know, Hinduism or whatever, where they come back to life, they're reincarnated or whatever. And I don't know, Lady Lazarus is just like, what, she just, like, tries killing herself a bunch of times. And, like, I don't want to sound like a bad person, but all she does is, like, try and kill herself a couple times, and then, like, she just, like, she's reborn, like, it's, like, destruction and rebirth, and, like, it's fueled by her anger of the people who, like, were judging her. And I don't know. I mean, you can never truly understand what's going on in somebody's head. So, like, as much as I'm not saying I don't agree with mental illness existing, because it does exist. But maybe since I don't have any personal experience, I can't understand what she's talking about and really get into it on a deeper level. Like, she's rising from the dead. And then she was like a phoenix or whatever. I remember it said she, like, came out of the ash. I don't like that one. But Endgame, the fact that death is, like, it like never truly comes, and it's like always there. Like, in Endgame, they're in, like, a dead world. There's nothing. Everything's gray. It's just bad. But they just sit there doing the same remedial tasks day in, day out. And I don't like that either. I don't like the thought of that, right? I want to, in my mind, death is an objective almost. Like, Thorfinn from Vinland Saga anime said, like, do people live only because they're scared to die? Which, yeah, unfortunately, yeah, that's just the truth. People are gonna want to live because they're going to die, and you'll see that when people, I'm trying to think, they, like, do stupid stuff, and then they're like, oh, niche reference, there will be videos on Instagram where somebody will, like, try and rob a store, and then they get, like, shot by the store owner. And it's like, you brought your death upon that. And then once they get shot or whatever, there's, like, they go from being, like, a tough person. And in some videos, they're like, I'm dead. The deep voice drops everything. And I'm dead. Like, there's fear. And I don't think there should be. I think, well, in that case, yeah. But I think if you've lived your life how you wanted to and you lived it fully, there should be no fear of death. When death comes, it should be an embrace. And there's definitely bias behind that, but like, one of the biggest things I've ever heard, and it was very profound to me, was somebody asked an old guy, what's the worst part about being old? And you think, like, what's the worst part about being old? And everybody's like, oh, the health issues, like mental decay, like they're losing who they were. But the guy said that the worst part about being old was remembering being young. And there's so many ways to take that. It's like remembering all the fun you had and the fact you can't have that fun anymore, or maybe remembering things that you wish you could have done but didn't do. So I think all the regret and everything is what makes people fear death and have to write things like this to try and rationalize it. Because Samuel Beckett, I'm going to be honest, I don't think he was writing that if he was in a good mental headspace. I think he was questioning what life was, where he was supposed to go, what was his meaning, and put it into his work. And I mean, that's what all thinkers, all poets, all writers do, is there's usually some sort of emotional attachment to what they're writing about. And I think death was so scary to Beckett that he had to write that and rationalize death as something slow. I don't know, because it's such, you can take it from quite literally both ways of thinking when it comes to Endgame. You can either think that he's so scared of death that he wants to believe in his head that it's gonna be some like almost eternal, it seems to creep closer, but it's not. But then there's also the way you could think about it that he, I don't know, cares about death so much and wanting to just, like, he's just writing to try and see what sticks. Like, he's just throwing stuff at the wall and just seeing what works, And Mother and Poet, by far, best one. Her sons die, I forget what it was, fighting in, like, the Italian Civil War, or World War II. Anyways, she's writing about... Oh, I left the door open. She's writing about how, like, her son's, like, death, like, caused her immense, like, personal grief. And then her son's death, like, is considered noble because, like, they died for their country. I mean, who wouldn't think that's noble? I mean, nowadays some people might, but they died for their country, and it's like the fact that death is an honorable thing. Like, if you die honorably, and I think most guys, maybe it's just me, want to die honorably. So I think death is something that is going to be naturally feared unless you build some sort of, like, I don't know, how, like, the Vikings, like, they didn't fear death because if they died in battle, they were going to Valhalla. You've got to, like, find some way. I mean, just as you said, I've got to find a way to, like, drive myself to get to class. People will need to find a way to not think of death as a scary thing, but as a welcome and almost helpful thing. Because death only comes when you're weak and when you're struggling. Unless it's, like, a car crash, and then, like, that's outside influence. What can you really do? And that's not considered, like, to me, that's not the end. That's like somebody cheated you out of your life, So in my mind, death as a thing should be welcomed as long as you are always living your life to the fullest. And then I think where we see people start to write stuff, again, with, like, Beckett, it's like they write it to try and escape that mental reality that death is something they should welcome, but they have so many regrets that they don't. Oh, this is just, like, I'm thinking of more things to think about. Like, because what if Beckett was so scared of death that he wrote that to try and make other people scared of death, so he, like, knew he wasn't the only one? I mean, probably not. You got, like, grown-ass man if you're doing that. You gotta dial in, but just, especially with how, I don't want to say open-ended, but in-game is so, like, you can interpret that 1,000 different ways. It's people at the end repeating the same cycle day in, day out, dusting the curtains or whatever. But I think, to me personally, in my best description, death or the end should be a happy thing. But I don't see, like, we've never had a description of death, so there's no words I can even think of to try and rationalize and, like, speak what death is, because there's no true definition. There's just, what people think death is. Which then again, all comes back to religion. Religion, the basis of death came from religion. Any feelings or any motives people have about death came from religion, whether they like it or not. They could be atheists and it'll still come from a religion. If they think hard enough about it and they think far enough back about it, it'll have come from a religion. And I think it's supposed to be happy. And I mean, I've said it over and over and over. It's supposed to be happy, but only if you're living your life to the fullest. So, like, me, I'm probably not living my life to the fullest, but I think, like, giving back and just being in a constant state of ecstasy just from helping others in your life going correct, you'll reach a certain age, which I think is why I can't think about it that well now. I think it's a good wake-up call to live my life to the fullest, so then once I am, I don't know, what's an average death age, 70, 80, once I am that old, and I'm able to think back, I won't be scared of death, I'll be ready for it, because Guy said, remembering when you're young is like the worst part about being old. So I think if I did enough and my family's well off, or not well off, but like they're not crack addicts, I think at that point death wouldn't be so scary. And I think that's what most people realize, is that as they do slowly get closer to death, they stop scaring, they stop being so scared of it, they start to embrace it. And I think, I don't know what I think. I'm like trying to like really tie this back to Endgame, because there's like a long read, and it's like I don't know, it's easier to talk about, you'd think, than Lazy Lazarus or Mother and Poet. But I don't want to think about it or really talk about it, because yes, it was long, but it doesn't feel like that's how death should be. Death should be the end. And being at the verge of death, but not truly being dead, it's like Schrodinger's cat, but for the world. It's like they are dead, but they aren't. That's not how it should be. You should be alive, and then when you die, you're dead. Like, there should be no limbo in between the Dante's Inferno, whatever it is. There's like the purgatory or whatever, where you're in the middle. There shouldn't be that. There's no limbo. There's life and there's death. And as celebrated as life is, death has to be not celebrated, but understood and embraced. It's like the sun, life, everything orbits around it. If only I knew how the stars worked, I could really make a good analogy here. But the moon is still like for all the people on Earth, right? If Earth is people, the sun is life. People orbit around life. They live life, and then the moon is just something that's constantly there. It's constantly present. And people, some people think the moon's beautiful. Some people think death is beautiful. And I think the world will have a good change if everybody can start to embrace death, not on, I'm just going to put this out there, stipulation, not on like terrorism, not like, if I die, I will go to heaven, I don't care, death is whatever. But I think people should recognize that death is a constant and permanent thing, and that once they realize that, quote flashback, you live 2 lives, and your second one begins when you realize you only have one. So I think, it just keeps coming back. You fear death because you fear regret. And it's just so simple. Like, death itself as a concept, simple. Thinking of death, not simple. But embracing death, unfortunately, not even unfortunately, is so simple. Live life to the fullest so that when life is gone, death is easy. I don't know. I feel like I've just been rambling a little bit. But I feel like what I'm saying, it's in my head. I just can't figure out the words. I hope you get what I'm saying. If that